All right. Hey, there you go. You
That
guys
was
won.
pretty good.
All right, episode 12.
Of what?
Strength.
Strength
Episode
and
12 is
laughs.
strength.
It's just strength.
Strength and
Strength and
laugh.
laughs.
Yeah.
Episode 12, Stronger Through Humor. I'm Tommy.
I'm Cody.
And I'm
That's
Joe.
And that's Cody. Are we all in the same?
No.
Tommy, you're top left?
You're bottom for mine. Joe's top left.
Are you top left on yours, Tommy?
I'm top right on mine.
See, it's all mixed up.
If I do this, I could high five you.
No, I'm high-fiving you, Joe.
Am I high-fiving
Tommy,
you?
you're by yourself.
Our viewers are really like this.
Can you
move this
reorder it?
around?
I was just wondering. I don't think you can. Oh, well. Okay, enough with that.
And he's traveling again.
Whoa.
Traveling, Tommy.
We're live from I forget where Big Ed was with his honey. From 90 Day Fiance, we are live.
Back to that.
We're just gonna have the same topics every podcast.
All right.
So let us know why you love that show so much, Tommy.
It's a good show. Honestly, I like shows like that. I get awkwardly into them
Why's
Like
it gotta
I-
be awkward?
because I get like aggressive with like I care way too much. I care way too much about these shows,
You'll-
and I voice my opinion way too much.
You'll fight other people.
I will fight people.
Yeah.
No, it's funny.
Big Ed deserves better. Is that the stance? Is that the stance we're all taking?
No, Big Ed pulled a big dirty.
Ooh,
Yeah,
pulled a big bouquet of whoopsie daisies, or
yeah. Pulled a big easy.
hey,
Well, I mean, it's a very quick story. So the girl that he's with is like 23 years old, and he's like 50 something. I don't know how old he is. But then after like weeks of knowing her, he's like, "Oh, by the way, I don't want any more kids. Like, I'm gonna get a
Ooh.
vasectomy."
Ooh.
She's like, "Why didn't you tell me this when you first met me?"
Ooh,
He's like, "I didn't think it didn't come up organically."
that's a big three. I feel like that's one of the topics you got to bring up initially, like
You want more kids?
just in relationships in general. That's like one of the big first things, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
someone's adamantly no and someone's yes, it's not. You're not going to make it work out.
I don't think.
I don't think it's gonna.
It's
I don't think.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, you know what, you convinced me not to have kids or something like that. Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah. Well, especially if it's like, yeah. I mean, with like me, I've always voiced that like, for like me to say I want kids is pretty not irrelevant, but like, men do pretty much nothing. I don't. To Cody's point previous, like we still have to like.
Men have to chip in one.
have to chip in.
Yeah,
But in terms of like bringing, like carrying the child and everything, it's men do legitimately nothing. So, and it's not like,
you could change that.
yeah, you can. There's been studies done.
Yeah,
I've watched movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger gave birth once, right?
it's true.
Can't happen.
It happened. I don't think that was a documentary. No,
I don't know if you're lying to me.
he gave birth.
Oh, you're saying that was a documentary?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was. But yeah, so yeah, that was a pretty fun 90 Day Fiance episode.
yeah.
Sundays, tune in.
Didn't get too deep at all with that combo.
Yeah, not at all.
No.
I just don't understand with those shows, how they have like any kind of reality TV show, they have like previous guests of the show watching the next season and giving their commentary.
Really?
Yeah.
How's
That was a
work out?
thing. There was like on our podcast, wasn't there a guy that watched it and then recorded his reaction on Twitch.
Oh, that was just like just someone watching. They weren't part of our thing.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like that happens where people
Yeah.
record their reactions and post it.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a huge thing.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's a thing. Because I already watched it. So now I'm gonna watch somebody else watch it.
Maybe for people who didn't watch it and they kind of get the gist
I don't think
of
it'd be geared towards us per se, the people that made it. It's just geared to other viewers.
Yeah, because I know
maybe they don't want to watch the full episodes and stuff like that, so they just watch the interesting parts where a guy watches it or a girl watches it and says jokes throughout the whole thing or something like that. I don't know.
Seems very strange, but
hey, man,
yeah, they call it pillow talk.
There's a lot of strange in this world.
What else is strange, Cody?
The fact that you're in space right now.
I was gonna say Cody was going on his conspiracy rant that he usually does before a podcast.
Yeah.
He's talking about UFOs.
They're real.
Yeah.
They're real.
They announced it. They're real.
They've always been real.
Is the government lying to us?
Yeah. Government's always lying. Let's not get the government hates us. Let's be real.
You're gonna open a can of beans.
Let's hire that cuddler.
Oh no. Big Ed.
Moving on.
Big Ed.
Dude, he would make a good one. I think. I don't know. From just his pictures and his neck. That's what I'm basing it off of.
Nothing makes a good cuddler like just a big neck.
Well, or a lack of.
Is it? I feel like that makes it more of an obstruction because when you slide your hand underneath the head, it's just shoulder. There's no space for your arm to go.
It's true. You said he doesn't even turn his head, right? He just his whole body moves.
He's like a bodybuilder, a really big bodybuilder.
Yeah, there's something wrong there. So, I mean, let's calm down, Cody. Don't insult him, man. Come on.
Let's not offend him and bodybuilders in one sentence.
Yeah, I'm really curious. You must have like some trauma, some instant.
Just a bunch of scar tissue buildup. That's all. He just needs to.
Just from a permanent shrug, and that's it. Yeah, I'm curious. I know there's a special term for it when it happens in women. I think it's like a form of arthritis. I want to say, but I'm not sure.
Is it more prone to happen to women, or is it women specific?
I was gonna say, why is it women specific? I'm sure it could happen to guys too.
Okay, Cody, you don't need to soften your position just for the camera.
Yeah. Now that the camera's on, he's all Mr. Nice Guy.
Softening that stance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what I saw, was more predominant in women, but
okay.
I mean, what else is new, right, Cody?
Who knows?
But yeah, so we got
hold on, is anything
perfect segue into this episode.
Anything cool happened recently with y'all? Y'all want to chat about?
I moved back into a squat every day ollie lifting. It's called like a super total transition. It's just like
so many words.
Big words.
Yeah. Squat,
super total.
Yeah.
It's like
transition.
12. But so that was fun. I realized how just shitty I am after going for 3 months. Wanted to stop a few times, but no, that's pretty much it. I think. Just a lot of reading, programming, a lot of stuff like that. What about you, Cody?
Not much.
He's been
not used to all this free time.
He's been doing so much
yard work.
Landscaping.
Yeah, landscape work.
Posing.
Lots of squats. I wonder why.
Posting thirst trap pictures.
A lot of squats, a lot of yard work, and a lot of nothing else really.
A lot
Netflix.
of curls. Harps off girls.
Fending off.
Fending off the swarm.
Yeah.
Fending off James.
He's
He
after
wants-
everyone.
He wants it. You've been going on some hikes? I see.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I've been lucky with the weather too, because it's been super cold. Well, not super cold, but it's been more colder than what you'd want to go on a hike with. But
I was like, is that super lucky?
well, no, I was gonna say I've been lucky where like the actual weather is different when we went out there. No, it hasn't been super cold. The sun would always come out. We come back to the city, it's cloudy, or it was raining the first time, or it was super windy. But
Yeah.
as soon as you go,
Did you go out to Hunts Lake?
not yet. No.
No, that's a good one.
I feel like it's gonna be super busy.
Yeah, I think it must be just because I know like with the challenge that we got going on for that quarantine games, there's been a few people that have went to Hunts Lake.
What?
And I've logged like 15 kilometers. It's like, that's cool.
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, we chatted about it. That one's like the most popular one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been there though yet at all. So
is Birds Hill open now? I think so.
Yeah,
I think they're all like okay to go. Just gotta be responsible.
Just no camping still, I think, right?
Just no gyms open.
I think
no gyms.
camping.
They're starting. I don't know if it actually is yet though.
Okay, because I know you could do like reservations and all that stuff. Just no
It's
gyms.
not gyms. Yeah, no gyms.
Did you see that protest the people were doing to get gyms open?
In Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what was it?
They were just
group of people doing push-ups and squats
outside like a
of
building or something. Yeah. Protesting that gyms should be open.
Yeah, allowing gyms to open.
Yeah. Is that how you do it?
I don't think that's the way.
They're following the Tommy squat program. Just never-ending squats.
Quarantine games.
Quarantine games going on. We need the gyms to open.
I'm sure we'd love to have the gyms open, but I don't know if that's the way.
Yeah.
They're just laughing at them. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're like, what is happening? Well, I know there's a couple of petitions going around in California, and there was one in Manitoba going around too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I just want like some sort of plan or something, right? Like, I feel like it's just in the back burner. They're not really thinking of it. It's just like, we'll open it up once everything's good. Like,
that's the frustrating part. You get asked like almost every day, like, "Oh, when's the gym opening?" No idea. Have no plan. They haven't announced anything yet, so
yeah. Because it's as of now, it's like still wait and see, right? It's still a wait and see after mid-June. After mid-June is a wait and see, and that doesn't help us.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, there's a squat and push-ups outside.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least it's summer.
Somewhat.
Is it officially summer yet?
No, I mean, I'd rather this happen now than like middle of winter.
Oh yeah, I would be.
I think a lot more people would be like depressed too.
Yeah.
More depressed?
Like, more depressed, yeah.
I can't imagine myself more depressed now.
More depressed than right now. Are you kidding me?
Damn.
Well, I know like I had to drive to get a like trailer repaired and everything, and just dropping it off. I had to drop. It was like an hour and a half drive, or hour 15 minutes, whatever. And I was so pumped to leave the house because like I'll just like do programming at home and then do like a little bit of errands, but nothing crazy. So yeah, I think what we talked about like on earlier podcasts, it was just a huge difference.
There was one day where I just stayed in and like didn't really do too much. I watched a few movies and like I just felt crappy physically. My brain felt crappy. Like I was just chilling though. Like I watched movies and stuff like that, good movies, but just knowing that it did nothing and physically didn't do anything too. It was like, man, sucks.
Yeah.
Even if just going out and walking or driving or something.
Yeah,
helps.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that's helped a lot of the quarantine people get, even if it's that like 1.5K walker or something. So that's helped a few people with that.
Can you imagine how crappy, if this happened during the winter, all those IG videos and stuff like that?
What do you mean?
The work at home stuff with like people making workouts and stuff. They'll be like, oh, just shovel snows and squat with it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Shovel snow with no shovel. It's just, you're using your hands.
Put a bunch of snow in your backpack and do some squats.
Yeah. Just a mess. Yeah. I can't imagine if this happened in winter. That would have been not fun.
I'd still go hiking.
Yeah. Hunts Lake, here we go.
I gotta do it, man.
Yeah. They'd find just a bunch of bodies in the spring. Just on Hunts Lake, Ontario.
It's my thing. It's like, come on, I'll bring someone new to go hiking with me, and that's how the bodies are end up.
They go disappearing. Yeah, it sounds like Cody's topic that he had before he turned the cameras on.
Of when we were all telling like our deepest, darkest secrets.
Confessing on camera, off camera.
On camera, off live.
On camera, off camera.
Yeah.
On camera, off the record.
There we go.
I like this on the record. But yeah, so that's a good segue into this episode.
We have the best segues.
Yeah. Caleb.
Yeah, flat earther.
The future triathlete.
Oh.
Future triathlete, current flat earther.
Yeah.
And fondue extraordinaire.
Fondue extraordinaire.
Those are all good. Those are all
great
good
rugby
things,
coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we could include that he's a rugby coach.
It's only his main thing.
But
yeah, I found out from him that through the interview that I've been saying Raku rugby totally wrong. It's like,
are you surprised though?
Yeah. He was a really nice guy. Didn't even say that I said it wrong.
No, I think he called you an ignorant slut like a few times. I'm just kidding.
As soon as the chat ended, he went on a rant.
Yeah, he actually just broke his laptop. Just slammed it across his knee. But yeah. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. He's a real fun guy. Really energetic dude that has no filter at all whatsoever, and is super fun to talk to, super knowledgeable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a little issues in the beginning there with
him as a person.
And also him connecting to our thing with the video, so
it's
going to be more of us chatting too than.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Him just being completely overwhelmed at the very beginning with.
Well, we were at the height of our conversation, and he's trying to figure out how to join with his video.
Yeah.
And he's just listening to us spew all this nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tommy thinks it's nonsense, but
this is my livelihood. Right?
We're definitely spewing something.
Yeah, I was very very passionate about flat Earth. Not at all. This is what the quarantine does. Gets you watching weird things. And
you were doing this before the quarantine.
I didn't go this deep into it. I guess I haven't even gone deep into flat Earth. I literally watched, what was it, Beyond the Curve or something?
Beyond the Curve, one thing, and brought it up to chat.
Did you watch it?
No.
Man, watch it. It's hilarious. They just make them seem so bad.
I have such a backlog of things to watch.
No, you
and I don't watch them.
But yeah, so Beyond the Curve was a pretty funny one. It's just I just like the topic because like it's just so funny. The views that you get is just so extreme. With like position wise, I guess the position wise is pretty extreme. You're either like with it or not really with it, or you're like completely against it.
I feel like that's a lot of things. People are always in the extremes, but there's a lot of gray. Like 99% is a gray area, and then you got 1% extreme. And like people always think extreme sides, but 99% it's just gray area.
But if you're looking for a conspiracy theory, I would not do the flat Earth. There's not going to be much strong points with it.
I don't know too much about it, but I love the idea of people being lizards.
Yeah, or lizard people running the shapeshifter, lizard people running the Earth.
I'm down for it though.
I mean, it's a lot more compelling way to live. Be like, well, there's lizard people here running stuff.
Is Bigfoot real?
I don't even want to look into that.
You don't even want to. I'm surprised you haven't looked into that.
Have you seen Tommy's foot?
I got some wide feet, but I don't know if it's...
Oh, wide foot, that's it.
I got some duck feet.
Yeah, Tommy's wide foot.
Yeah, wide foot. But yeah, I didn't look into that. I stick to the mainstream stuff that I can not get too deep in. Oh, that's weird. I like how it's your eyes are in the background too.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
My thing doesn't work well.
That's so funny. Is it racist?
I hope so.
It doesn't work for allowing. That's so funny.
It thinks the black is a green screen.
Yeah, that's what it must be. Yeah.
Look into my eyes.
Yeah, and then your beard, but it's not your mustache.
Yeah, that's weird. A bit.
That's funny. And your hair. That's really funny.
All right.
All right. Yeah, well,
I think that's a good way to get into this episode.
Yeah, people listening will be really, really pleased with us talking about Joe's Zoom background, so that's good. But yeah, have fun listening to Caleb talk about a lot of good stuff with rugby, how he changes up kind of rugby routines, what they kind of focus on. I think he has some youth.
Oh, nice eyes.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it's a topic. Yeah, it was a good one. It was a real fun one we had chatting with him, and I hope you guys learn more about him through that, and hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about the Earth being flat. Since I clearly have an actual picture from NASA, Mr. NASA himself, of the Earth.
I love how it looks like water is falling off the edge, and it just goes.
It's ice.
Oh, shit.
Nope.
But it all right.
There we go.
Oh, he's in here.
Oh, look at him.
Perfect.
Finally.
There we go.
Yeah.
Word. Now we could get started. What do you think about flat Earth?
So flat Earth. Right, flat Earth. Hang on a minute. Send a little line. Yeah, it's fascinating. Everyone's thinking of flat Earth. How has this even come up, though? Is the question. Not
Tommy.
This, but
Yeah, Tommy, why?
I'm really saying our conversation, how to come up, or just in general? No, just in general. Like, was it, did someone just decide to start another trend out there and get more followers and likes, or what's going on? I think so. There was a Behind the Curve documentary, and it's just like guys that just love conspiracy theories. And then how he worded it was like, Flat Earth is the last book on the shelf of conspiracy theories. So then he just gravitated towards it. And then he grabbed everything that could prove it. And then he's like, yeah, the Earth is flat. So that's cool. Oh, man, I've got to jump on. What was it called, though? So it's called the something curve. What did you say it was? The documentary? Beyond the Curve. Beyond the Curve. Yeah, it's or Behind the Curve. I was really entrenched in it. Yeah.
I think I read somewhere in an article, someone that like they one of the I think last clips or something. And correct me if I'm wrong. If someone's seen it, they were saying that they tried to test it based on what was it? Altitude or some time or a certain time in the day or something. And it was something to do with either a string or light, and if it bent or got some path of parallel, it meant the world wasn't flat and it was actually round. So they went out there and is that what happened? Or
I know, like in the documentary, they tried to shoot a beam of light over like 7 miles,
right,
or a few miles, and it just didn't work at all. And they're like, and that's how they closed the documentary. It was like,
ended it like that.
Here's the big moment. I was like,
just failed.
Like, not today. But yeah.
Oh no! There's something there. We can't see it.
Yeah, something blocked it.
Earth is still flat. Definitely flat. Definitely flat, guys. All right, so we'll introduce you as the flat coach, flat Earth coach.
Done.
Yeah.
I appreciate it though. That'd be awesome.
You get a new following.
Yeah, get a few more followers.
The Flat Earth Rugby training system.
Flat Earth.
One of a kind.
From Winnipeg.
Yeah, you'll definitely get some very passionate people. Very passionate people.
I believe it. I mean, isn't it funny when you talk about passion? You talk about anything that is a topic, and it is just it lights up, right? Mm-hmm. And it's hard not to go anywhere. It's almost like a political question. And this flat Earth is what I've heard is it just takes off. Like people are just so hell bent on proving that it's wrong.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, absolutely. Do whatever you want with this introduction.
Well, I think it'd be best to maybe turn it back on to you. So we got Coach Caleb here. You can introduce yourself how you'd like.
Instead of us making stuff.
Instead of us. So I guess his time at Movement with Raku Rugby. And he has a few rugby teams training here a couple times a week, or had, I guess, before everything kind of went off the rails. Yeah. So I'll let you take it from there, Caleb.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for the warm welcome. Thanks for inviting me on this. Is it the 12th episode? I believe it is.
Yeah.
12th episode. So I love that comment earlier on. I think it was you guys got past the 3rd episode and decided to carry on. But I think it's awesome. For the audience members who don't know me out there, Caleb Stick, been in Canada for, better part of 10 years now. Born and bred Kiwi. Raka Rugby sort of started up about 4 or 5 years ago with the concept of, I guess, giving back to Winnipeg rugby players. There were minimal sort of resources out there from both a skills perspective and also then from a strength and conditioning perspective as well. There's many great strength and conditioning coaches here in the city, but there was nothing that was particularly honed in on rugby, and that's sort of where the really Raka Rugby started from. And it's sort of, I guess, grown from there. And so it's been great. And now I get to partner up with everyone there at Movement, and then meet some incredible people across Winnipeg, spanning narrowly, I guess, the globe, in essence, is sort of where the reach has gone. And I guess we'll probably talk more about that throughout here. But yeah, it's I look sort of forward to the next however long we have here. Back and forth, other than taking the mickey out of each other, but it'll be good. So I'll hand it back to you guys.
Alrighty, so we'll continue instead of what Caleb really wants to talk about is his beliefs in the flat Earth, but we'll get to that later. Sorry, we can actually go back to the rugby topic for now. So what led to becoming a rugby coach, and maybe talk a little bit about your past in like football and stuff like that.
Yeah, gosh, I guess coaching in general for me started when I was 17, when I was back in high school. Through, in the traditional sense of rugby, I started, really late. I started when I was 20 years of age. So actually, probably like a lot of high school students over here, they only touch it for a few years in Winnipeg, especially, and even across Canada. And then they're sort of, playing against, grown men and women, that are 30, 40 years of age, playing, rugby for 15 years more than them. So for me, my coaching started out with a passion. I'd been lucky enough, to have played sport at a high level. So I've been surrounded by great coaches, coaches that, we all love. And then there's coaches that we all, don't have pleasant experiences with. And for me, it was really taking everyone's advice and shaping my career. But the biggest thing has always been to give back, to pass on that knowledge. And that's sort of where I find myself today within, I guess, the realms of Manitoba. Rugby is just trying to, give back to the community, especially at the youth levels, all the way through to, sort of senior. We're sort of at a monopoly here. Winnipeg, we have a bunch of really talented athletes, but from the pure essence of skill development, that's what's lacking. So, we've got cross-code athletes coming in from either football, basketball, soccer, which are all great sports. And now we're really trying to, mold them into more of a rugby player. There's great opportunity for rugby players, globally, not now, but there was sort of 4 months ago, globally. And there's, also opportunities for youth development to, to head out to BC, to sort of spread their wings outside of Winnipeg. So, again, just sort of using my knowledge, my connections throughout the world to try and push these individuals. Now, again, I use that word talented, but when I mean talented, it could be, character. I might just be they've got pure passion for it. But here in Winnipeg, we don't have the ultimate resources that, BC Rugby might have, or Calgary, or Alberta Rugby might have. So, trying to build them up on an even playing sort of platform, and then to provide them the tools to then go into either, university ball, or they might even jump out and go up to BC straight away where the talent's really good and jump into club football there to try to get more exposure before following their passion into, sort of a career or a development program at a higher level with Rugby Canada. So, so in essence, it's always been about giving back. Long answer.
Oh, it's good.
What are some big changes? Because I know, challenges-wise of rugby in sport development, because so many sports are growing in Canada, like basketball, soccer, and everything like that. So what are some unique challenges of rugby as a sport in Canada? Because it has been growing significantly.
Yeah, I think women really have led the way. They've paved the way for rugby across Canada, and they've done such a phenomenal job. They've really done well at the youth levels. So, and I think this is where and why they've probably done, just in my brief sort of exposure to it, is they've started up a U20 program for university, student, well, I shouldn't say university, but it's sort of targeted at that age group. The World Rugby have a U20 tournament that is held. So that's really, your next superstars coming through rugby development. The men don't have it, but, the women do. For what reason, I've got no idea why they wouldn't mimic each program. So some of the struggles beyond that, I think, come down to, and I'll sort of probably repeat myself a lot with this topic, is really the resources. Resources for, we're based here in Winnipeg, so resources for Winnipeg rugby players. Not just that, but probably the prairies in general. We just don't have, there's no support coming through here. And so that's quite a big struggle. So throughout high school, we're able to sort of nurture these high school students into thinking, great, rugby is an awesome sport to play. It's very team oriented. It's a great sport. Not to use football and rugby against each other, but a lot of football players love it because they find that they're always moving instead of sort of having to come on a shift, come off as a shift. They're consistently moving. The other sort of, I guess, part to touch on very quickly, I guess, is the awareness around concussions. Now, as a parent, I think it's really evident that, football, you've got all this protective gear on, which I think is great. Rugby, it might just be wearing a 1 inch sort of headgear pad, and you're going out there and going full contact. So it's trying to have healthy conversations with parents, with PE teachers, phys ed teachers, and trying to encourage them to look, when you teach rugby tackling in its finest form, and you allow players to grow at it, tackling and the contact in rugby isn't as severe as you actually think it is. And so, for me, I set up sort of Winnipeg Touch Rugby here in the city to try to bridge that gap between, parents who were a little concerned about, the contact aspect. So first and foremost, it's great to try to get the kids learning the basic skills. So run, catch, pass, in a limited contact environment. And then from there, really create that environment of saying, great, if you really want to go the next step in rugby and learn how to tackle, look at rookie rugby as a program, right? Or align yourself with a very knowledgeable and sound coach who understands tackling principles. And then once you've got that, piece of the pie sort of all sort of gelling together, I find rugby, the stigma around contact and tackling sort of starts to dissipate a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. Here in Winnipeg, the hardest reality is that we play in summer, and the grounds, it's sort of going against what I'm just saying right now, but the grounds are hard, right? So there's no forgiveness if you get tackled without any protective gear on. Regardless of how clean of a tackle it is, your shoulders, first touch the ground, along with the back, and then unfortunately your head's sort of hitting the ground. And because the ground's so hard, that's where I find the majority of, concussions come from. It's not actually due to the initial hit. It's the impact, unfortunately, of the hard grounds that we're playing on.
Yeah, secondary contact. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's trying to, the other challenges here, I think, across Winnipeg, across the prairies, and leading into sort of the Maritimes as well, is, provide the kids with an opportunity. Hockey, football, it's such a saturated market, which is great. So, what other cross codes can we help these athletes with? So some of the selling or selling attributes that I like to talk to parents and other coaches about is, well, how can we use rugby as a secondary sport to actually elevate this athlete? How can we, rugby has so many pros in terms of conditioning, sports performance, just like football does, or just like hockey does. But how can we mold that, time that they might spend with us on a 7th circuit or in a 15s training camp? How do we give them extra tools to elevate their performance? And that constructive conversation with other coaches, some buy into it, some of them don't like that. Some of them want to sort of stay the course and stay the traditional route, and I totally respect that. But yeah, like I say, when it really comes down to it, it's for the struggle here is resources, and I'd say coaching knowledge is probably the next big one.
Yeah, I know that's similar. I was at an Olympic weightlifting seminar and coaching seminar, and they were talking about how experienced coaches, or having an experienced coach at like the higher levels, is always going to be kind of a given. Like, you're going to have some really great coaches there.
Yeah.
But it could be argued that where it's most needed is at those lower levels to get so that you have good coaches and very passionate coaches with the sport, being able to give these athletes a good experience with it, as opposed to like, I'll use the barbell reference. Like, we're going to do a clean and jerk with a person can't even squat, or we're going to hold stuff over our head, or we're going to start tackling kids when, we haven't even learned how to catch, just because this is rugby type thing.
Oh, 100%. There's and it never helps with like social media, and you're seeing the stars out there doing all these, amazing passes, catches, the running past people. 100%. Some of the best coaches that I definitely relate with are the ones that just sort of break it down to the A, B, and C. The typical thing, you can't run before you're figuring out how to walk. Right. And I totally agree with that. It's, some of these top line coaches, or even the assistant coaches, it's nice to go back to grassroots and really provide, sort of the youth, coaching cues that will really help them. And we tend to overcomplicate what that looks like. And it doesn't need to be complicated one bit at all. It's, it's just clear, concise cues just to help players progress. And I agree with you there, Tommy. It's, I wish more of the top line, sort of coaches would spend a little bit more time in the youth levels, or even just at the grassroots. And I know time's tough. They got other pressing matters day to day when they're up there, but that would be awesome. And just more collaboration. If they can't get there, maybe it's doing something like this instead of a podcast. It's just setting up those virtual training sessions. Sharing the knowledge, sharing the education. I find a lot of coaches, primarily in rugby right now, maybe it's like that across all codes, but a lot of coaches are sort of holding on to their own, coaching format. They think, they sort of keep it under lock and key, and they don't want to share that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And probably why New Zealand has been so successful for the last sort of 15, 20 years is they've unlocked the sort of Pandora's box to all of New Zealand, and they're just sharing the resources.
Yeah.
And that's where we've really, and that's from the elite levels all the way down to the club levels, and everyone's on the same page now. Don't get me wrong, at the elite levels, they're still not giving away all their tactics, but in terms of general resources, it's, you can make a phone call and you could grab some top-notch, either playbooks or articles, or, just be able to have a conversation with just a knowledgeable or someone that's been in an environment for a few years where, now they feel that they've got the right information to capsulate that back down to the youth levels. So I think that's why, someone like a country like New Zealand in rugby is still seen as, one of the greats in the world. And it's only because of they're sharing the information, that they're not holding on to it like it's intellectual property.
Yeah. And that's what's going to make a good coach, right? Is, you're going to get or be able to connect with those coaches and be able to have those conversations. But in order to make your own coaching style, you're going to have to formulate your own opinion and coaching style of that based on more knowledgeable people, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think as soon as, hey, look, you could take that away from any sport and put it into general public, whether it be business, sports, even, just your own household. Take that advice and really mold it. You don't have to believe in it, but believe in your own beliefs, believe in your coaching philosophy, how you want to shape that. And then, take Cody's knowledge, and start seeing what he does great, and then start molding it to your, to your foundation.
Not a chance, Cody. Stay away from my clients.
It's not happening.
Stay away from my damn clients.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Very well said. Something that I'm very curious about is with rugby being a very diverse sport in terms of energy systems and technique, everything of the sorts like that, how you move, the game in itself and what the demands are. If we go on a younger athlete base, what should the younger athlete be focusing on to get into the sport? Maybe fitness wise, and maybe in terms of experience as well.
Yeah, and so maybe I'll preface it this way. So when we talk about maybe the younger generation, are we speaking sort of 17, 18, or are we looking lower than that? Just as a bit of a starting point.
Yeah, we'll say like say middle school to high school. Yeah, like a 13 to 17.
Yeah, for me, from a fitness standpoint, fitness is always going to help regardless, So there's a lot of stats out there using sort of the 8 kilometer in rugby as sort of the performance level where you should be hitting. So what they're sort of saying there is the elites move, sort of 8 kilometers every single game. Now, unfortunately for rugby, there might be only 4 positions that probably run a true 8 kilometers in a game. I try to encourage players to look at it and go, guys, just look at the end, guys and guys, look at 3 kilometers as it's a staple run. 3 kilometers is safe. And at the levels over here, that's honestly the most amount of running you'll probably see in a game is a minimum of 3 kilometers, right? Mm-hmm. So fitness levels, what I try to encourage coaches to look at it and my athletes, again, it's not rocket science, but it's from a skills perspective. It's just the ABCs of anything. So I mentioned it before, run, catch, pass. The other one that I haven't sort of put in there is really the kick mechanic. So you've got 2 ways of distributing the ball, right, which is catching and kicking. Sorry, passing and kicking. And when I look at those two formulas, passing is 99% of the time what you're going to do. So it's simply just working on how to pass a ball, directly 5 meters, then look at 10 meters. And when we start to look at passing a ball 5 and 10 meters, and it's a big difference. Even if I gave half of us in this group chat a task of, hey, go and pass this ball 10 meters, direct, and get it there as fast as you can, we start to peel back the layers on, well, how do we get an athlete to achieve that, right? So it starts to come from the leg drive, core strength, understanding that what parts of the body contribute to distributing the ball. So then when we talk to parents or when we're starting to prescribe, I would say sort of non-weighted movements to achieve that. Things that you're looking for as sort of an S&C coach or even just a personal trainer would just be a lot of core mobility, core stabilization, a lot of tricep power, right? So I like using bands a ton for this type of stuff. So paleo presses, for example, any sort of core rotation there. So great things would be a mid ball, so literally just going into a bit of a split stance position, hopefully grabbing a solid piece of wall and not like a ply sheet and throwing a heavy mid ball, against it. I always love seeing those trends out there. They grab a big mid ball and throw it. I was like, oh, it didn't bounce back. It's stuck in the wall.
Carpet.
So that would be where I look at that. And then when I really look at the sort of the run aspect, it's everything from, to me, I would look at that as a unilateral sort of movement, fast feet, so acceleration to deceleration, change of direction, agility drills. Really, I think when you look at the motor mechanics of many sports out there, whether it be tennis, soccer, football, once again, you sort of got those same drills, right? It's all change of movement, acceleration, deceleration, change of direction. So that's what I really focus the kids on instead of, a lot of, I think, North American folk, parents want their kids to get in the gym to get really strong. It's like the bodies are still growing. At the age of 18, they're still developing. Their bodies, are sort of slowly maturing. Muscle. I was still a string bean when I was 18. It wasn't until I guess metabolism started slowing down. I started bulking up a little bit more. Sort of the pressures I was saying, nutrition, what should I be fueling your body? I think they're all relevant points, but as I try to dial it back to tell the audience and parents, coaches, like, as long as the kids are coming to training and they've got a smile on their face and they're having fun, skill development's really easy and everything else naturally will flow with them. But if we're putting a bunch of pressure on them at the age of 18, when they're going through that sort of the athlete life cycle development process, they're going to burn out by the time they're 23, maybe 25, and just say, hey, look, I'm done with sport. So for me, I really look at, the basic fundamentals. Can they pass directly? Can they run? And then on the fly, can they pass? Right? And then still be able to support that. So it's trying to trigger situational drills during training sessions and decision-making drills during training sessions that will apply to them in games. And that's a lot more important than worrying about how big someone is or the size of the person they play. We all sort of had that stigma that, there's a big burly person standing in front of me and I don't want to tackle them. Once again, I think if there's the opportunity to teach that, the tackle aspect, sort of the fear starts to drop. So that would be sort of my 2 cents to any coaches listening to that in terms of rugby is, again, preach the basics well, but also do it with a lot of fun and provide a great training environment where the kids want to show up, not just because their mates are there, but just applying them with that added training session where I use that word, it's fun, they have a smile on their face, they can walk away laughing, right? Do that and the kids they'll naturally progress themselves to stardom. What we do in the background as mentors, whether it be, rugby mentor, S&C mentor, is that's where the other, sort of part of their performance development comes in, is it surround them with the people that can get them there outside of the influence of rugby. You don't need to be talking rugby 24/7. Keep it to your training sessions, still walk away and have a plan. But, when you're talking to your personal trainer or S&C coach, just ask them, start having positive conversations with them. How do I improve my squat, or how do I improve my acceleration? Align yourselves with those specialist coaches, and everything else will come from that. Watch training footage. Go and shadow some of the people that you see online, see what they're doing. How can you implement that into your own training cycle? Or, always look to be better. Just don't stay, don't be happy with status quo, because talent will only go so far, right? So again, long-winded conversation, but that's sort of what I do.
No, that's good. I think that's super interesting with rugby, because I know seeing those like just beasts of men in New Zealand and that just like sprinting down the field, and you're like, I need to get that big. My legs have to be that huge. My torso has to be that huge. And then if you do a 1 rep max squat that's really slow, like that's not going to help you in rugby. That maximal strength is going to be, it has to be more explosive. It has to be more powerful to translate to performance.
Yeah, I think there's that huge misperception, right? Like they think rugby players are just pure strength. But like you said, Caleb, it's overall athletes. They're really focused on conditioning, core strength, at agility, change of pace, skill development, right? These are all around athletes. So
yeah, they are, and it's quite fascinating when you look at sort of a rugby strength program and what they build into like a week of training, building up to sort of the Saturday's game. It's really neat when you start talking to some of the guys that are on the front line of high performance. It's broken right down during the season to preseason, off season, what that looks like, and I'd almost love to get your guys' take on how you guys would maybe even build a program for a rugby athlete, or even an athlete in general, to sort of help them understand. Instead of going to A to Z, we always love this as strength and conditioning coaches. Like, guys, that will take. It takes time. Trust that process. Please trust the process. If you skip sort of the middle part and you try to accelerate to the end of the program, unfortunately, we're setting ourselves up for failure. But yeah, Cody, absolutely, it's such a unique system where you come off the end of the season, you really just want to relax for a little while. You don't want to do much. But then at some point, you've got to go through that neuromuscular system once again. You've got to get back in the mindset of wanting to, go lift weight, go and start the conditioning sessions, get someone yelling at you, just to, run hills, right? No, Tommy, I'm not coming in today.
Not a chance.
No, buddy, I don't want you yelling at me today. So yeah, it is really unique, and a lot of the guys, a lot of the professional athletes that I used to play with they would go balls to the walls even on a Saturday before a game, and I mean, they would actually be in the gym lifting because in their mind they needed to get either rid of that and expel that energy or somehow control it. And for us now, knowing it's like it's the risk before a game is huge. But how do we as coaches, S&C coaches, how do you encourage that athlete to control that need not to go to the gym, or even just not to go for a run, prior to a game, prior to a meet, maybe it's like that as well before a lifting meet. How do you encourage them not to do like on the Friday night before a Saturday meet? How do you encourage them not to do that 1 hour REM?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right, and I sort of find that same mindset is with a lot of sports athletes, is to corral their energy, say no, like don't do it. And maybe it's just due to trust. It's due to Tommy's credibility, Cody's credibility, Joseph's credibility. They once they buy into that system, they won't. They start to trust it. They come back for more because they've seen the performance in year one. And they start to bite into that apple a little bit more and say, right, how do I get stronger? How do I get that explosive speed? And all that good stuff that goes in there.
Yeah, I know, like, for so say like the hockey players that I get for the last like 3 to 4 off seasons, like at the beginning of our off season program, we go through like a recovery phase, a strength phase, a power phase, and conditioning is like the basic kind of progression of it. With conditioning like sprinkled through there. But so how I guess my question is, it's kind of getting more into the in-season portion or would be of rugby.
Yeah.
So how would like say the basic phases of a rugby program be?
When we follow the traditional methodologies of any sort of sports performance programming, it's honestly it's exactly the same ladder in the trigger system. When we get to that so you go on post preseason and now you're getting into it, I prefer just a pure maintenance programming myself. Absolutely they can still go out and hit their 1 RMs and they can still try to peak, but I prefer to keep it at a level playing ground where, I would probably say no less than sort of 60, 70%, but no more than 90%. The only reason for that is it's such an explosive sport and you're playing for 80 minutes continuously. And if I use Winnipeg as an example, you're playing in extreme heat, 30, 40 degree weather during the peak of summer with limited water breaks. Even me at the age of now 37, who's retired in rugby, but leading into that, my body just couldn't recover. It took a full week to recover. And that's inclusive of, mobility, strength training sessions. You just start to feel worn down. So for us, I like to look at it as I would sort of preach more maintenance than anything else. At the more elite levels where you've got the correct recovery programs in place and you're in that environment, then you can absolutely push it a lot more. But for I guess your regular club players here, it's be smart about it. For instance, in rugby, if I talk about Manitoba, they're going to train at least maybe 2-3 times preseason a week, depending on what clubs they're aligned with. And then from there, as they start to hit the season, they're going to train once in a week. Then they might, some of the clubs, if I talk about men for a second, the men's program, some clubs have 3 teams, right? So when we look at 3 teams in a club, every team has to field 23 players. So you start now seeing the numbers that have to grow. You almost need surpassing 70 players on a roster in a year to be able to field 3 squads. Now that's not even taking into consideration injuries. So then the wear and tear on the body, some of these juggernauts and some of these teams just love rugby so much that they jump on and will play 2 games in a week, which is, and some of them will go through full 80 minutes as forwards, and it's like, man, I've never done that. And so I look at it. So then coming back to that question, Tommy, it's tricky to try and encourage the general public to not overdo it, to stick to that maintenance program and keep their bodies healthy. So it sort of comes in tune where, and I come back to that reference point of, maybe my voice as a coach gets really boring after a while, and you need to start incorporating strength and conditioning coaches, PTs, nutritionists. And when that sort of all comes in together, I think you've got the pure melting pot of, a really good athlete who now understands how to recover, when they should recover, the steps in place during the training cycles, what should happen, do we mix push and pull exercises on Monday? Do we not do that? Is it a 3-day split? Is it a 5-day split? How do we start to program that all in together? And honestly, it's really tricky here in Winnipeg because it's jammed into, of course, as we know, into in those summer months. Yeah. And everyone's out so active. It's like flip. So I find here in the traditional sense, you've almost got to start your preseason training for rugby roughly around early December, and then you got to start peaking it back up again. But for me, in season would need to be, or just coming out of preseason, I've found best results when I stick just with pure maintenance. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I know. What was I going to bring up here with that? Cody, what was I going to say?
Sorry, man. I don't know.
Flat Earth?
Just kidding. Flat Earth.
The Earth is flat. Based on that assumption, the Earth is flat.
There it is.
There it is. Here it is. I jogged. But I know, so say with like my clients, I really like for like peaking in a strength sport of like powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of linear progression into a peak and just modulating that in terms of it's a lot easier for me to control that fatigue. But like experimenting with velocity-based training, bands, accommodating resistance, RPE, I'll use those for cycles to kind of mix it up so that you're not just consistently running that, whether it's RP, whether it's a linear progression, you're still being able to have those little tidbits to keep you more motivated. So I guess I'm just trying to wonder, so when you get those athletes, especially younger athletes that get bored relatively easily, and you get them for seasons back on in for another preseason, how are some ways that you would kind of mix up a maintenance and stuff like that to make it fun?
Are you talking about if I was in the gym with them?
Yeah.
I think it's a great question. When I start to look back at the training cycles and the training programs that were probably put in place, Cody probably got sick of me there at the end of the day, but I'd add in games like right at the end, like noughts and crosses shit.
Oh, those games are awesome. Those are great.
He was actually talking about those games before, and he was like, I hate when Caleb.
But it is, in the traditional sense of just, lifting the trap bar or getting the trap bar, going under the barbell. What I try to start to encourage then, are, I guess, I'd sort of call it you're sort of reshocking the system to sort of reset their mind, because they get stuck in a sticky place. I'm going to be lifting barbells again, or I'm going to be lifting the trap bar. So what I like to try to do is build in more of a conditioning circuit, where they might be doing monster sets, but again, sort of low reps, low weights, and to try to mimic, as many sort of gym-based exercises as what they would do out in the field. So it might be incorporating a ball. For the forwards, it might be going to do very slow, methodical banded bear crawls. But while they're doing that, they might have to do it on a Swiss ball, right? Or they might have to do that on a med ball. With some of the backs, it would be getting them to use the ball, right? So either putting a very small med ball in there. And so as part of an active recovery, I might put them on that, get the ollie lifting player boxes, put a ball on there. And now for them, they've got to start working on their passing, right, mechanics under heavy fatigue. And that's how I start to build into their training programs, or again, reshock them into thinking, instead of just your normal linear programs, is, I'll probably put that in once every month into that, so they don't get used to it and they don't know when it's going to come into the program. Because a lot of them look forward to it. They're like, oh, when am I doing it again? It's like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. You just focus on what you're good at. So, yeah, it's. I try to keep the movements as specific to rugby as possible. But then I also look at what everyone else does in the gym. Maybe some movements that you've totally forgotten about because you're so focused on being rugby specific. I keep a sharp eye on what Tommy might be doing, what Cody might be doing, what some of the other trainers might be doing. You know what? Great exercise. Let's look at that and see how we can apply that movement into the team and into the drills. You might be using bands for over speed band jumps. It might be using the TRX for more explosive work there, right? So really dialing back on the weights and really looking at moving your body weight. For example, people talk about sprawling quite a lot. I talk about how do I get Tommy to get off the ground explosively, but how do I get him to beat Caleb? So once again, I come back to that concept of I sort of get them in pairs, and then I start to make it a race. Can Tommy get to the ball quicker than Cody can get to the ball? And how does he does it? Why?
Sorry, you can't. It's not happening.
How is he being more explosive? Why is he being more explosive? And so I start to look at those concepts and start giving the sort of training systems back to the players to get them to sort of self-assess and figure out what their weaknesses are and where their strengths are. So again, I use that topic wording quite a lot, as self-assess. Self-assess yourself underneath the bar. I see it. But what if I'm not here one day? How do you one, notice yourself and your mechanics? Your body movements. Stay true to what that feels like. Is the bar sitting way too high? Is it in the high rack position and you don't like it? Try figuring out what that is. So hopefully that answers your question anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so many different training variables, so many different programs you can run. But I think the last point of that self-assessment is very important, especially holding a group or coaching a group, because yeah, you're going to come to the session 15, 30 minutes before, and like I can't go inside your body. I don't know how you feel, or if your hip's tight, if your knee's tight. So you have to take that responsibility as an athlete to make that work. Yeah.
Well, even when you're working with the group, like you can't physically watch every single person every minute of the session, right? So they have to have that baseline automatically, because if they're not, you're watching 5 one moment, there's 5 behind you, you can't even physically see them, right? So.
Yeah, and that's just that, and also, you know, it's at those group sessions where you almost, you know, you want another strength and conditioning coach there, and I think that's maybe a beauty topic to talk about, is like, what would you guys would feel would be an adequate number, not just from a safe perspective, but, you know, to get other eyes. You know, at what point do you do enough coaching to coach the players, coach the training environment, to be able to self-assess and coach? Or do you bring in another specialist? Like, have you guys ever played around with that concept? What do you guys think about that?
I think, like, it depends on the sport, really, and like how much technique is involved. I know, like, having, say, barbell training, you can monitor, like, if you have athletes lined up in a row, you can monitor, like, from rep to rep, sort of like, if I'm looking at the bar patterns, and I could call out like athlete 3, like, oh, like knees out, or, you know, glutes or whatever cue may work. But I think like in a technical aspect of like rugby, if you're working on like the throwing technique or the passing, I think that number for like me personally, first off, like not even trained in any mechanics of rugby, but
I think it also comes down to like how many different even groups or stations you're doing in a session. Right. So the further that spread gets of how far the athletes are from you is when you start bringing in more coaches as well. Right. If you can have an area where you can scan the whole space, it's easier to work with more athletes. But for example, like our space, if you have a group on the turf, but then you got a group on the platforms, how do you watch them both at the same time? Right. So
well then you just have like a strength coach, and then have the rugby coach do the.
That's what I'm saying. That's when you bring in a second person or a third person, or
I think it's a good point, and the S&C coaches really need to understand, you know, what's that magic number. You know, I know Cody, you and I sort of spoken about. I was like, I don't like my numbers getting over 12. You know, even I feel nervous. It's like, you know, there might be under the barbell, there might be on the platforms, there might be. You know, over on the bikes, wherever they might be, but you know, your gaze is everywhere, trying to make sure, you know, you're walking around. You sort of feel like that school teacher corralling all the kids back in. But for me, it would be like, even at like 12, I don't like it. It's the point where I feel comfortable with the necessity to bring someone else in who's just as qualified just to watch them, right? To provide them with those cues.
Well, we've joked around about like Weapon Factory. You get 20, 25, 30 people in one class. It's like, it's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, even at 25, we're like, come in. Joseph, come help.
No, it gets pretty rowdy. In here.
But I think that's what I love about the training environment, right? You know, it's, when it does get rowdy, everyone's engaged, everyone's having fun. It's I miss it right now, right? You're missing that rowdiness. You totally do. It's so it's energetic, and it's missed. I think it's missed.
Definitely.
Yeah. One of the major things that are definitely missed. Yeah, the people being around, and definitely the space itself, and what it encourages, the rowdiness of Cody that he brings to the gym. Shouting from the roof.
The roof.
All right, I guess we'll skip ahead. We've talked a lot about some different points, but we'll kind of change directions here. If you weren't in the fitness industry, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
Tough question.
It's a good one.
I've never even thought of it. I honestly haven't. I wasn't in there.
It's a good hobby.
Yeah, what's a good hobby? I mean, I've always loved triathlons. So I you know, if I wasn't a coach, it still doesn't mean anything. But I'd still, I've been doing something athletic. I can't sit still.
A triathlon, like that's
I was like, what?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed swimming. I've always enjoyed riding. I've always enjoyed swimming. You know, it was always sort of there. You know, long distance running for me, I always enjoyed. Yeah, I've always wanted to get back into it. I mean, since I've sort of retired now from sport myself, it's, you know, the wife's like, well, how am I going to keep you at home? I was like,
Join a triathlon.
Little projects going on the side.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, if I wasn't doing, no, honestly, mate, I'd be doing. Yeah, I think I'd default back to trying to probably triathlon or some form of, you know, extreme sport, whether it be, you know, those ultra events where, you know, you're really pushing the boundaries at some point. I guess it's just hard to now arrange near the way that mind thinks after being in that sort of, you know, environment for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough question. What else what would you guys be doing?
Hey, no.
You're not allowed to.
I tried to clear.
There's no curb talk on this podcast. It's all flat. Yeah, I don't think. Going from like a strength coach in school to athletic therapy to triathlon, that's madness for me. Like, whoa, okay, we're stepping it up here. I'm like, I downscale, you're just upscaling. So.
I don't even know how to swim, so like that's I'm dead.
That'd be a battle.
Right off the bat.
Just the dog getting water or whatever, the dog crawl.
But I'll do it. Yeah, but I'm in. Sign me up.
Life jackets are approved, so we'll just use those floaties.
Making me cry.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, another good question we like to ask our guests here is, what's your favorite exercise? Favorite movement?
Favorite? Yeah, you know what? It's going to be movements. Unilateral. I'm a fan of unilateral movements. Let's start stuff. Yeah, no, I always have been. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love squatting to bits, but I don't know. There's something about the balance of any sort of unilateral work, whether it be, you know, coming off a box or simply, you know, just sitting, you know, trying to do a single leg deadlift with a kettlebell there to add a little bit more pressure. Or even if it's just, you know, an agility drill, you know, just bounds, you know, lateral bounds back and forth. Yeah, unilateral. Yeah.
I like it.
Good answer.
It's a good one. What's your favorite physical activity outside of the gym to do?
What's that, mate? What's my
favorite physical activity to do outside of the gym?
And you can't say rugby.
Yeah. I like rugby.
Yeah.
Triathlons.
Yeah, you know what? Being a doting father, I think it's chasing around after the kids.
Hey, there you go.
It's going to be chasing after the kids, mate. Yeah.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's a good one.
Your kids, though, right? Just to clarify.
Wife listening to this?
Yeah. She's actually in the chat here. We're not showing her. All right, before our speed round here, what advice would you give someone who's unmotivated to train or work out right now, especially during this time, during the COVID?
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Wow, that's really a toughie.
Play rugby.
Triathlon rugby.
Yeah, it's. I guess when you look at where, you know, even if it wasn't COVID or if it was, you know, just sort of general public people that are sort of lost focus, you know, I almost sort of use that word as It's find your passion. What's your passion? It doesn't have to be, for anyone to go back out there and sweat. So I try to encourage people to say, hey, look, walking is just as effective. Just any form of movement. If you love gardening, go and garden. Again, it doesn't have to be pushing tin. It doesn't have to be going for, these long bike rides. Any form of physical movement. So I love to sort of try to empower people and encourage general public, even athletes, because we all get sick of it at some point, pushing tin. It's just hey, go out there and move. Go out and play golf, right? Like I say, go gardening, go paddleboarding. I mean, we're sort of getting there. So think of other ways, that's not, that doesn't feel excessive, but it feels fun. Find something that's fun to do, and lo and behold, you're doing exercise.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's actually a huge point. I never even thought about it like that, but you could even throw that in a program one day. It's like a day 4 of a program, just 60 minutes of a hobby or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for part of our, I guess, active recovery, when we used to play Saturdays and then go Sundays, a lot of us would just go and play a round of golf. Probably 9-hole, and we'll just go out there and just loosen up the body by going and doing that, or just going and jumping in the ocean and having a really depleted, cold sort of swim the next day. It's always fun.
Yeah. If you can swim. If you can swim,
yeah.
Well, we weren't going too deep.
And go for a run and then go for a bike and did a triathlon.
Quick triathlon.
I did like a duathlon the other day without the swimming.
Duathlon.
Well, I went for like a 3.5 kilometer run and then jumped on the bike and did like a 15-kilometer bike ride, and I was like, all right, this feels good.
Yeah.
Solid.
You did it. Now you gotta find a big lake to swim in now.
Swimming hole.
Yeah, like,
Swim across Lake Winnipeg. Might be a little cold still.
Maybe? Might have one.
Yeah. May need to be followed by something.
Yeah.
Could still be a little cold.
You're right though.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into some speed round, some rapid fire here.
Go on.
All right, you ready? You buckled in?
There it is.
He's ready. He's ready.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you ready?
Cody, you good?
Yeah. No more conspiracy questions, right?
So first question, flat or round?
God damn it, Tommy.
Enough with that already.
I couldn't resist. Yeah, we narrowed the list down just from what we were talking about. But so to start, favorite book?
Favorite book, reading. What's it called? How to Talk to Strangers. Go figure. Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, good book.
Go. Good book. Favorite piece of gym equipment?
Oh, barbell. No, actually, I like kettlebell.
Kettlebell, there you go.
Favorite home cooked meal?
Oh, it's my mum's favorite, meatloaf. Yeah.
Meatloaf.
Sounds good.
Oh.
Guilty pleasure meal?
Fondue.
Fondue. What are you dipping in it? Just your fingers?
Gardening. I'm cooking gardening. A little bit of added nutrients in there as well.
We've all been there.
Sourdough. Either sourdough or cranking out the old broccolis and cauliflowers and all that fun stuff. So, anything that actually tastes good with melting cheese.
So your fingers.
Putting on that grave to dip it into boiling,
It's a lot of. Yeah, you got to be in a dark place to do that.
Like I said, we've all been there. We've all been there.
Quarantine rock bottom.
Just a Saturday night.
All right. What's your binge show? Show that you would like to binge, or show that you binge.
Oh, binge show. I've got 2 of them. Just finished up Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Blacklist. Yeah.
Blacklist.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Oh, yeah, it's addictive. That's addictive.
You have to stay away from those shows. I get carried away with them. I just live on the couch if I get hooked.
It's just like a fishing rod, man. They throw the bait out and just row you in and they keep doing it back.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite coach that you follow?
Oh, I've got two of them at the moment. I love a really good kicking coach, Dave Albright. He's based out of England. He's just a fantastic, methodical kicking coach for rugby.
And Tommy Howell.
I was gonna say, I heard that was a verse.
Sorry. Rugby-based stuff. Ex-strength conditioning coach for South Africa. A guy by the name of Steve McDonald. Or Steve Mack, I should say. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Those two.
Any other non-rugby coaches? Not me. Don't name me. I'll edit it in. I'll edit it in anyways.
Yeah. It's going to be your voice.
Tommy Howell. Yeah.
Tommy Howell.
Tommy Howell. All right, next question. All right. So now, how can people reach out to you? So with any rugby or if they want to inquire about training with you?
I guess the easiest way to do it straight away, of course, is just jump on Instagram and look at Raka Rugby. That's probably the easiest way to do it, and all the contact details are there. Also, just on email address, just rakarugby@gmail.com too. Yeah, that's really the easiest way to do it. I'll leave it at that.
There we go.
Way to do it.
Yeah, that was a great little chat here.
That was good.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb convinced us all about the Earth being flat.
Earth is flat. Yeah. Earth is flat. Do triathlons and don't be afraid to dip your fingers in fondue.
3 takeaways.
3 takeaways from this.
3 things.
I'll remember that. I'll remember that tonight.
We're gonna get a fondue set here, so you
Ew.
Recco Rugby's cool down changed a little bit. Get the fingers ready.
Just sanitize your hands before.
Hand sanitizer, go.
Make sure the Band-Aids are there, everything else.
Sucking on Band-Aids?
What's going to happen, man? You put it on, who knows, huh?
It's a different animal.
Just adds more flavor, complexity.
Dark, boys, you got the dark.
All right. Thanks a lot, Caleb. Thanks for coming on.
Good talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was a pleasure. It's good to see you guys again.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it's over soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we can start training in person soon. That'll be good.
Absolutely, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, Caleb.
No worries, guys. Have a great day.
See ya.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, guys. Take it easy.